When was the last time you sat quietly, truly quietly, and asked yourself, is this really how I want to spend the years I have left? Not out of fear, not with guilt, but with honest, open eyes. If you are watching this, you have likely crossed 60 years of life, perhaps 70, perhaps more. You have worked, you have raised families, you have survived things you never thought you could survive. You have loved, and you have lost, and you have kept going. And now, here you are. Some of you feel a strange restlessness, like time is moving faster than it used to, like there is something you were supposed to do, something quiet and deep and important, and somehow, in the business of living, it got postponed again and again. The Buddha did not say that old age is a time for rest from life. He said it is the most precious time of life, the season when the mind is ripe, when the noise of ambition has quieted enough that wisdom, real wisdom, finally has room to grow. But there are four things, four habits of the heart and mind that quietly steal that ripeness, that take what could be your most meaningful years and fill them with noise, with pain, with worry, with waiting. Today, I want to speak to you honestly about those four things, not to judge, not to frighten, but because you deserve to know, because you have earned the truth. Let me paint a picture for you. A man, 68 years old, spent 35 years as the head of his department. People came to him for answers. His voice carried weight in every room. His opinion shaped decisions. And then one day, he retired. His family threw a party. There were speeches and plaques and cake. And then, quietly, the calls stopped coming. His son-in-law makes decisions at family dinners without asking him. His grandchildren look at their phones when he speaks. His daughter listens politely but rarely follows his advice anymore. And somewhere deep inside, in a place he would not admit to at a dinner party, he is furious. He is hurt. He is restless. He finds himself starting arguments he doesn't really care about, offering opinions no one asked for, staying up at night rehearsing what he should have said at Thanksgiving. Does any part of this feel familiar? In Buddhist teaching, we have a word for this force that drives us: mana. It is often translated as pride or conceit, but it is more subtle than that. Mana is the deep, quiet need of the self to be seen, to be measured, to be found significant. Mana is not a flaw. It is a very human thing. For most of your life, it served you. It made you work harder, aim higher, show up. But there comes a point, and 60 is often that point, when mana stops being a fuel and becomes a burden. Because here is what the Buddha observed: the self that needs to be respected is a self that is always, always afraid. Afraid of becoming invisible. Afraid that without the title, without the deference, without being asked, there is nothing left. But that is not true. That is simply the voice of a mind that has not yet learned to rest in its own depth. One of my teachers used to say, "A still lake does not need the wind to prove it is water." You do not need to be consulted at every family meeting to have wisdom. You do not need your adult children to follow your advice for your life to have mattered. You do not need applause to be worthy of peace. In fact, there is something extraordinarily beautiful and powerful about an elder who has laid down the need to be important, who can sit at a crowded table, say very little, and leave everyone feeling strangely calmed. That is not weakness. That is the rarest kind of strength. So here is the practice I offer you for this first thing. The next time you feel the sting of being overlooked at a family dinner, in a conversation, in a decision that was made without you, instead of speaking, pause. Take one slow breath and ask yourself honestly, do I want to be heard right now or do I want to be right? And then, if you can, let it pass. Not because you are less, but because you are more than your need to prove it. Real dignity in old age is not being respected by others. It is respecting yourself enough to let go. I want to ask you something, and I want you to answer honestly, not to me, but to yourself. How many hours this week did you spend inside a memory that hurt you? A betrayal, a loss, something someone did to you 10 years ago, or 20, or 40, something that was genuinely wrong, genuinely painful. And yet, here it is again, playing in your mind like a film you did not choose to watch but cannot seem to turn off. I once spoke with a woman, 69 years old, grandmother of four, who had not spoken to her sister in 22 years. The reason? A real one, a deep wound. Her sister had betrayed her trust in a way that was severe and lasting. I am not dismissing that. But when we talked, I noticed something. She did not bring it up once or twice. She wove it into every story she told. Every conversation somehow found its way back to that wound. Her voice changed when she spoke of it, sharper, younger, as if she had traveled back to the moment it happened and could not quite find the way home. And I asked her gently, "How long each day do you spend thinking about this?" She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I suppose most of it." This is what the Buddha called dukkha, suffering. Not only the big sorrows, but the subtle, grinding weight of a mind that has mistaken its stories for its identity. Here is the thing about old wounds that no one tells you plainly enough. The wound happened in the past, but the suffering happens right now, in your body, in your nervous system, in the contraction around your heart every time the memory surfaces. The person who hurt you may be gone, may have changed, may not even remember, but the pain lives on. Not because the past is still happening, but because the mind keeps returning to it, like a tongue to a sore tooth. This is not weakness. It is simply what untrained minds do. They find a groove of pain and keep running along it, because somehow the mind has learned that staying angry means you are protected. That if you let it go, it means what happened was okay. But the Buddha said something quietly devastating about this. Forgiveness is not something you give to the person who wronged you. Forgiveness is something you give yourself. You are not forgiving them because they deserve it. You are setting yourself free because you deserve it. In our tradition, we practice something called metta, loving kindness. And one of the hardest, most profound stages of this practice is extending that loving kindness toward people who have caused you pain. Not because they have earned it, but because holding hatred, holding resentment, is like carrying hot coals in your hands, hoping they will burn someone else. You are the one being burned. So here is something simple I would like you to try. Not today, not perfectly, but begin. The next time an old wound rises up, a memory, a resentment, a replay of something that was done to you, before you follow it, pause. Breathe 3 slow breaths and say to yourself quietly, That was then. I am here now. That is not denial. That is not pretending it didn't happen. It is simply choosing again and again, as many times as it takes, to come back to this moment, to this life, to the breath that is happening right now, which no one can take from you. You cannot rewrite the past, but you can stop letting it author your present. Let me ask you, when did you last sleep a full, deep night without your mind running through something you cannot fix? The news, the economy, your children's choices, your grandchildren's futures, your health, or the health of someone you love, the state of the world, the direction of the country. Many of you live with a low, constant hum of anxiety that you have carried so long you have stopped noticing it. It is just background noise now, the normal feeling of being alive after 60. But I want to gently challenge that. The Buddha taught about anicca, impermanence. Everything changes. Everything is in constant flux. The seasons, the body, the nations, the mind, the people we love. Not one single thing in this universe has ever stayed the same for even 2 consecutive moments. And here is what impermanence means in practice. The world is going to keep changing, whether you worry about it or not. Your children are going to make their own choices, whether you lose sleep over it or not. The political situation will unfold, whether you consume every piece of news or whether you turn off the screen and take a walk. Worry is not love. Worry is not action. Worry is not wisdom. Worry is simply the mind refusing to accept that it is not in control. And after 60, many of us have more reason than ever to feel that loss of control. Because it is real. The body is less predictable. The world is moving faster. The children are grown. We are no longer at the center of the stories we once managed. And the mind, terrified of this, grips. It worries, it circles, it watches the news for 2 hours and then watches it again as if the outcome might be different this time. One of the great images in Buddhist teaching is of an ancient tree in the middle of a forest during a storm. The young trees bend violently, some are uprooted, but the old tree, the one with roots that go down 30, 40 feet, stands still. Not rigid, it moves with the wind. It is not unaffected, but it is not swept away. This is the possibility available to you in your later years. Not the absence of storms, but the depth of roots that let you stand within them without being destroyed. There is a useful practice I want to offer you here. Draw, mentally or on paper, 2 circles, one inside the other. The outer circle is everything that worries you. The inner circle is everything you can actually do something about today. Most of the outer circle you cannot touch. Put your energy only in the inner circle. Can you call your daughter to say you love her? That is in the inner circle. Can you vote, volunteer, speak kindly to a neighbor? That is in the inner circle. Can you sit for 5 minutes this morning in silence, taking care of your own mind? That is in the inner circle. What is not in the inner circle? The news, the economy, the past, other people's choices. Let it be what it is, not with indifference, with wisdom. And if you are watching the news for more than 20 minutes a day and coming away feeling worse, not more informed, just worse, that is not staying connected. That is simply suffering voluntarily. The real news, my friends, the news that most urgently needs your attention, is your breath, your body, this moment, this life that is still, right now, unfolding in front of you. Worry is not love. Worry is not wisdom. It is simply the mind refusing to rest. This fourth thing, I want you to hear carefully because it is the most dangerous of them all. And it is dangerous precisely because it sounds so reasonable. It sounds like this. When things settle down, I'll start meditating. Once I get through this year, I'll make time for stillness. When the grandchildren are older, when I'm not so tired, when the house is in order, then I'll focus on my spiritual life. Or, and this one is very common, I've made too many mistakes. I've waited too long. It's probably too late for someone like me. I once met a man named, I will call him Thomas, 72 years old, a retired engineer from Ohio. He was intelligent, reflective, genuinely curious about the Dharma. We spoke for a long time, and at the end of our conversation, he said something that broke my heart a little. He said, I always knew I'd need to slow down and go inward eventually. I just figured I'd wait until I was really old. He was 72, and I looked at him gently and I said, my friend, what exactly are you waiting for? This habit, postponing the inner life, is what the Buddha called the opposite of appamada. That word, appamada, means non-negligence, spiritual diligence, the refusal to waste a single breath of this precious, fleeting life in sleep when wakefulness is available. The very last words the Buddha ever spoke as he lay dying were these: all conditioned things are impermanent. Work out your salvation with diligence. Not someday, not when conditions are perfect. Now, with diligence. With the urgency of someone who understands that time is real and finite and moving. I want to be very clear. I am not saying this to frighten you. I am saying this to free you. Because the truth is, 60, 70, 80 years old is not too late. It is, in many ways, the perfect time. The ambitions have quieted. The children are grown. The need to perform and compete and prove, you have seen where all of that leads. The mind, if you let it, is more ready now than it has ever been. Many of the greatest practitioners in our tradition did not begin until late in life. There is a story of an elderly woman, 80 years old, who came to a monastery and asked to be taught. The monks hesitated. She said, I have 80 years of suffering. Is that not enough material to work with? They taught her. She became awakened. So I am not asking you to become a monk. I am not asking for dramatic transformation overnight. I'm asking for 5 minutes. Tomorrow morning, before the news, before the phone, before the coffee even, sit somewhere quiet. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and do nothing except feel your breath moving in and out of your body. When the mind wanders, and it will, it always does, simply return. No frustration, no judgment, just return. That is all. 5 minutes. That is where it begins. And then ask yourself, tonight, before sleep, the question that has the power to realign everything. If today were my last day, am I at peace with how I spent it? Not perfectly, not without regret, but am I moving toward what matters? Am I awake inside my own life? Someday is not a day of the week. The only door to peace is the one you are standing in front of right now. Let me come back to where we began. You have worked hard. You have raised families, built things, survived things, carried things that would have broken many people. You have known great love and great loss. You have been through seasons of your life that no one who hasn't lived them can fully understand. And now you are here. These four things we spoke about today, chasing respect, replaying wounds, drowning in worry, and waiting for someday, they are not character flaws. They are simply habits. Old patterns the mind adopted to survive. They served a purpose once, but they do not serve you now. And the beautiful thing, the thing I want you to hold as you close this video and go back into your day is this. Letting go of these things does not mean losing something. It means gaining something. When you release the need to be important, you discover the freedom of simply being. When you stop replaying old wounds, you discover how much energy has been trapped there. Energy that belongs to now. When you put down the weight of worry, you discover how light life can actually feel. And when you stop waiting for someday, when you sit down right now in the middle of your ordinary Tuesday morning and breathe, you discover that peace was never somewhere else. It was here. It has always been here, waiting for you. In Buddhist tradition, the elders are not seen as burdens or background figures. They are seen as the treasures of the community. Because an elder who has done their inner work, who has sat with their life, faced it honestly, let go of what needed to be released, that person radiates something. You have felt it, perhaps, in the presence of certain grandparents, certain teachers, certain quiet strangers, a settled quality, a warmth with no agenda, a peace that does not need to advertise itself. That is available to you. That is, in fact, what this season of life is for. The Dharma does not belong to the young. It belongs to those who are ready. And readiness comes from living, from having enough seasons pass through you that you finally understand what the Buddha was pointing at all along. That everything is impermanent. That suffering comes from clinging. That peace is not somewhere we get to, but something we uncover, layer by layer, breath by breath, morning by morning. You have the rest of this day. You may have many more years. Please, do not waste them on things that no longer serve you. Come home to yourself. You have worked hard. You have loved. You have struggled. Now, let these last years be the years you finally come home to yourself. May you be well. May you be peaceful. May you be free. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.